It's the No Holds Bar Witchcraft podcast, episode 77, and I am losing the will to fucking live, Chris.
Oh wow! You dropped the F bomb in the first 2 seconds. Well done.
Yeah, wait
What
until I
is
drop the
getting
C
to you,
bomb.
Liam?
What is getting to me? Well, it's these motherfucking PKTWs, Chris. The post Calvin traditional witches. And no, it's not the comments that they write on my video about PKTWs because that just amuses me. What upsets me is the shit content they put out. Have you noticed any shit content coming out lately? Because there's a lot of it from PKTWs. It used to be a load of the Wiccans that were putting really shit content out. There was a little bit of shit content coming out from the old ceremonial magicians of the left-hand path, but most of that was kind of amusing, to be fair, and they did have a little bit of guts to them. Albeit I know a lot of them can't magic their way out of a paper bag. But I mean, they went to the effort of, dressing up for the occasion at least with their candles and dark robes and color changing contact lenses. But the Stang, the modern Stang gang, which I think they're called also, I've heard people refer to them as that, apparently just sit in their pants talking about colored yarns and stuff. Have you seen that?
Yes, unfortunately, to say. I think what blows my mind. I think you raised a few times during your PKTW rant, which was reviewing Crooked. Was it the Crooked Path? Is
The
that Calden's
Crooked
book?
Path by the one they call Calden. Yeah, I did a book review of that, which some people
So
thought was amazingly brilliant, and some people and agreed with me, and some people thought it was horrible. But enough
I do.
said about that.
I do look forward to the comments as they pop up, and I get the notification that someone's commented on that. Because now I just kind of go, oh, I wonder what that is. But yeah, essentially is a lot of what you said there, which is what I don't get is what new things is it bringing? Because to me, it's Wicca with a little bit more flexibility, and no guaranteed religion part. To be fair, it's one of those where instead of having a god and goddess, they suddenly have the folk devil or some other equivalent of that folk deity of some kind, and then they've exchanged the circle for a compass, and they use fairly the same tools that the Wiccans use.
No, 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 no,
Apart
no, Chris. Because instead of casting a circle, they cast a compass, and then very often have a stang because that's what the books told them they need to get.
So, but what I struggle with is knowing, and maybe this is ignorance, but what great purpose does said Stang have that you know? Because for me, all I see is it's a stick for holding things in a very pleasing way for Instagram to be photographed. Um, it's good for hanging skulls on and shit. Like, I kind of don't get why it's so necessary, or am I missing some big occult secret there, Liam?
You're missing a big occult secret that you need to go and buy The Crooked Path by Keldon, and you need to find that big occult secret because he notes some big occult secrets in that book. I know that because the comments I've been getting from how that book has completely changed people's magical practices. There must be occult secrets in it.
I
I
don't
wouldn't
remember
have
seeing any,
considered.
Liam.
I would. You and I are not experts with Cochrane-inspired witchcraft, right? There are people that we know, certain Welsh people, yeah, from a Welsh tradition anyway. Our friend Lady Poison, you could say, is an expert on
Yeah.
that type of witchcraft. There are many types of witchcraft. That type of witchcraft, Robert Cochrane inspired witchcraft, where they use, some kind, I suppose you could say, iconic-ish approaches or tools, rituals, that were publicly released and then have now been watered down. So I'm not saying that I have a problem with Cochrane-inspired witchcraft, which a lot of people are calling the Stang gang now. They're saying, oh, it's like that Robert Cochrane's a little bit like Gerald Gardner. They both crop up at the same time. They both make some tradition, and they both kind of try and market it to the rest of the world, which isn't really necessarily the case from what I understand in Cochraneite witchcraft. But there are like initiatory traditions and that kind of thing. What I dislike is this whole idea of traditional witchcraft that I always saw as a joke. I've always seen traditional witchcraft as a joke, right? And I don't mean a joke as in like they're all fucking idiots. I'm starting to feel like that now with a lot of them.
Yeah.
But a joke as in ha, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, traditional witchcraft, meaning I do things the traditional way, not these namby-pamby modern witches that are too scared to go to the woods at night type thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about iconography and copy and paste in it with PKTWs, with all of the Wiccan books, with all of that. It's all about copy and pasted shit, and then buying the next copy and pasted book and hoping there's something extra in it. It's not about practical applications of magic in a journey of self-discovery. And when it is self-discovery, like exploring your fucking vagina with a hand mirror is what it is. That's what you got with the Wicca from the 90s. With the traditional witchcraft now, it's all about pushing your own practice in an authentic way that means copying someone from medieval times, from what I can see from the content that's putting out there. Now, I don't know what to start on with this. I don't know where to go with this. All I know is that what I'm looking at in terms of content that was more of a traditional witchcrafty vibe 10 or so years ago versus content now of a traditional witchcrafty sort of vibe is just as bad as the Wiccan shit that we all used to take the piss out of. It's just as bad. It's no better than it. It's got all the shitty politics on it, which detracts from actual magical practice. It's got all of the iconography, all of the things you have to collect, all of the shit authors are coming out. It's just the next buzzword, the next fun thing. And don't get me wrong, I am in no way or shape or form a traditional witch. I'm not a traditional witch. I believe in fucking innovation, which some people in the traditional witchcraft, group that would probably be referred to as a traditional witch, also believe in innovation. They swap the cauldron for the slow cooker. I can get on board with that. I can understand that, right? But what I can't understand, nor can I abide, is mundanes running around playing superstition and then actually thinking they're fucking doing something. Because that's what you're getting from the modern traditional witches. You're getting the abracadabra spell. I don't fucking know how that works. Oh, well, wait a minute. I've just read in the book, as it gets smaller, it just disappears. And, and oh, look, in this certain book, it says about this witch who was accused of witchcraft and mentioned this, and this. I think I'm going to go away and do that now. And I've heard of mandrakes and familiars, and I think I need to go away and collect me a mandrake, and I need to go and do a spell from this book because I'm a traditional witch. And traditional witches, of course, have got balls and have got some guts to them, So I need to go away and cast a spell to find my familiar, because as we all know, all traditional witches need a familiar, and I need to cast a spell to do it because I read that in the book Barbarous Words. Okay, right, you say some stuff, because otherwise I'm going to say far too fucking much and upset far too many fucking people.
That's fine. You can wait until the other side of the Patreon barrier.
Oh yes, right. Don't worry, I will.
Two things I kind of want to say. So the first one is, we're not directly saying that all they are Wiccans with a new look. What we're saying
Aren't we?
directly is
Some of them are, though, Chris. Some of them
are.
actually are.
That's not what I'm saying, though. What we're trying to say, before we just get accused of being dicks, which we are, but at the same time, like, you know, what we're talking about is there is these books that we refer to all the time by our mate Agrippa, the 3 books of Western occultism, right? And they are there to set a point in time. So this isn't new magic. That's not what they were describing. What they were describing is what had gone before and what was attempting to kind of start to happen then. So that is very much a place marker in history that says this is all that's gone before and this is what is currently happening now. So what we have an issue with is obviously Gardner and his cronies kind of rediscovered this in the 1950s, like around that time, repeal of the Witchcraft Act. This information starts to appear again. Right. The problem I have with this is Agrippa never went away. You could always get hold of a copy of Agrippa. It never went away because it became a textbook for the scholastic elite for them to refer to. They have built the philosophy of Western occultism from a book reading point of view on that catalogue. And I'm using it as a catalogue because that's very much what it is. It's a catalogue or an encyclopedia that kind of covers and categorizes a whole swathe of different types of Western occultism. It's not a definitive guide in that kind of traditional sense of being explaining actually what it means. It is a Clip Notes version, a primer of all those. It's an essentials guide rather than a definitive guide, an essentials guide of what is actually capable of practitioners at that point and those that have gone before. So that is trying to capture an entire history of Western occultism, which I don't think it massively does a bad go at that, to be fair. I think you have to read between the lines with a lot of it in order to get to the good stuff. But actually, what's on the surface is a decent summary. And it is that, a summary of what has gone before. Like, it's not going to teach you everything there is to know about witchcraft, but it attempts to cover the Clip Notes versions of all the different types of magic that are available. So at the end of the day, he was no expert. He was someone collecting knowledge. You know, if anything, he was an armchair magician himself in a lot of ways. He'd actually done a lot more magic than your average armchair magician these days, but he is what we would in the classical world would have been happy to call an armchair magician. Like, had collected all the scrolls, but hadn't really used them all. Like, do you know? So, you know, he would have been one of the librarians at the Library of Alexandria before it burnt down. Like, do you know, it would be that kind of, he would have been that one at the border, at the dock, checking in. I've got one of those. Oh, I've got one of those. Oh, I'm confiscating that. We haven't got one of them. And handing it over to the scribes in order to actually write that up. So we got a copy. Like, you know, if he'd have actually got the sort of knowledge he should have had, he would have been able to go back to the astral version of that library and have actually done his research properly and actually seen what the classics had done up until that point. He hadn't, because he wasn't that good. But you've got to say that we are talking about, that is still a time-stamped point in history where we have not re-met it since. So
primary school. That was primary school.
It was kindergarten,
primary school kindergarten textbook. Johnny Phonics.
Colour by numbers. It was colour by numbers.
Yeah.
And obviously, the Western occultism from a face value has not progressed, and actually, if anything, has regressed since that point. They're not most what you find in any book about Wicca or any book about these kind of post-Kelden lot that are coming in. Any of those books is actually taking away from what was available almost 400 years ago. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, what I can struggle to understand is the Essentials Guide isn't even covered by a lot of these books. And I can't fathom how that is possible in the internet age, where any person doesn't even need to buy a copy of Agrippa. They can fucking download it from sacred texts. You know, granted, it's a bad translation, all the translations we've got, but, you know, the ones that are in English, because it wasn't written in English. But, you know, there is digital copies readily available of this text. Now, we're not saying it's perfect. It's far from it. I'm also saying it's an essentials guide. But that should be telling you something about what we're talking about. The fact that these people are not adding anything to the tradition. I'm not saying that it's a bad guide. Well, yes, I am. But you know, they are bad guides. And the fact that that publishing company that we like to slag off a lot is now printing a lot of this traditional witchcraft stuff says that actually they are joining the Wiccan. That is an extension in some ways of Wicca.
It may as well be.
Not, you know, because that branding alone is making that happen. So what we're not necessarily saying is that there are some books that have been coming out lately by these kind of authors. And by that, I mean, you know, traditional witches, the kind of modern variety, are actually producing some good reference material. And by that, I mean, they've scoured through records and they've kind of copied various charms that we've not heard of or not seen in a really long time. And they're a good reference book, but they should be used exactly as that. They're not a manual to teach you magic. They or they are inspiration at best. Like, you know, when you get like a good source book that's got
a book of symbols. That one I got from
something like that. It's a good reference.
It's got
point
loads
of
of
view.
writing, but the writing's
You know?
no good. And if it is on there, it just makes a slight reference. You'll find less in that because it's one page per symbol. You'll find less than a Wikipedia article on that. But you stare at the symbol. If you're a magical practitioner, you open it up, you look at it, you open the book, and then you open up the thing that's actually on the page of the book. Right? I know a lot of people don't understand how to do that. And you glance at the little paragraphs that are written and it inspires you. Inspiration. Not learning.
No. We still have horseshoes. We don't need to use them. But the actual concept of how a horseshoe is created in the magical sense, how its usefulness, its superstition, understanding that knowledge is useful. Recreating it by sticking up horseshoes and saying, oh, that guards against evil and brings good luck, is not practicing witchcraft. That is superstition.
Yes.
That is superstition. It's not practicing. The same way that still delivering tarot and having to recite the words you've learned from a book is not practicing tarot. It's the same thing. If you are not able to go that step beyond, you are not practicing, you are copying. You are rehearsing for the big show. That's all you're doing, rehearsing. And I think that's the bit that seems to be missed on people. It's a criticism. Yes, it's a criticism. But it's not about actually their ability to do magic. what I'm criticizing is their ability to bring anything new to anybody's practice is what I have an issue with, that no one is learning anything from this. So, you know, I just don't see the point. Okay, I've ranted, so bring me back
Is it
to
time for me to rant? Right. Passing the microphone back to me. Chris, as you know, I got hashtag triggered. Like, not like some sort of social justice warrior triggered. I got triggered by the absolute shit I was seeing today. Okay, right. I'm angry. I'm very angry. I don't have many emotions. Anger happens to be one of them. One of the few ones that I do have. And I need to ask myself and really dive into why. Why am I angry? Right? Because a lot of people would say, well, leave them to it. Okay? The real legitimate practitioners, they'll find their way eventually. A lot of them don't. A lot of them die before they ever do that, and it takes multiple lifetimes for them to even get past the key stage 1 or whatever the fuck it is, past the Johnny Phonics. But what does make me angry? What is it that annoys me and pisses me off? Mundanes fall for stupid shit they see on the television, and that's fine. I can understand that. They don't know anything. They don't know anything. People, when they embark on a magical path and are really truly setting out to find a magical path, back in the day, they would find something and they would progress, and it would be fucking painful and it would be fucking hard work, and they would get somewhere. These days, people so say on a magical path, the vast majority of them are absolutely shit, and I mean embarrassingly shit. Me and Chris, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, launched this whole Thoth thing because we were fucking embarrassed. It's not because we came here and we thought, we'd like to set ourselves up as teachers. No, we cringed. Think of the most cringiest fucking film, like one of those In-Betweeners films or something like that. Think of something so awkwardly cringeworthy, and then imagine us, because that is us. That was what we were doing. We were fucking cringing at all of the shit was out there, and then we thought, fuck. I mean, come on. Even if we did a little something, it's got to be better than this. And we have found some very cool people that are on a magical path that are really pushing themselves, okay? What I tend to find is we're finding even more people that, if I'm honest with you, never make the fucking cut. That is what upsets me. I do not like to see someone put so much effort in and yet get fucking nowhere. You know, it is upsetting. Okay, I've watched in the past someone with cerebral palsy physically drag themselves across the room, right? Physically drag themselves across the room in order to be independent and to do stuff, you know. And that person, I found that very inspirational because they didn't give up, you know, and they did as much as they could do, and they really did attempt, and they needed some assistance. They couldn't do everything. They couldn't live a completely independent life, but I saw them really fucking try, and it really fucking hurt them to try, right? Within the magical practitioners that I'm seeing them kind of try. What I'm not seeing is I'm not seeing any of the classical witches that I used to see, okay? Because there's the difference. Okay, here's the difference between the PKTWs, the post-Keldrin traditional witches, the difference between the traditional witches and the fucking classical witches. It's an archetype. It is about the guts of the person. Okay, the modern practitioners are spoiled fucking idiots. Okay, so many of them are. We've taken spoiled fucking stupid idiots and we've mentored them, and they've then seen the difference in their own practice, in where they've own gone, how they see and view magic and their own power. I've seen traditional witches, which are a little better. A lot of the traditional witches is I'm going to actually go back to the original source material. I'm actually going to try and put some effort into understanding what went on, you know. But very often, a lot of them just fucking copy and paste it. They're like, well, I'm not copy and pasting from a modern book. I'm copying from the original sources. You know, I was like, well, no, just fuck off, right? Fuck off. You're not fucking doing anything. You're recreating some bullshit, okay? And you're not progressing. And then what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a classical style witches, the ones that I got somewhere I've got to fucking be, and it was 5 fucking minutes ago, and fuck me, you better get out of my fucking way because I'm going to do anything it takes to get there because I already consider myself to be late, right? And they have guts, and they will go to the places they need to go to get stuff done. Now, a lot of people band and throw around all these stupid fucking terms like traditional witch, blah, blah, blah. When we started, we probably just settled on witch and then got labeled as super witches by people that didn't like us or thought that we were taking the piss. And then eventually we kind of settled on professional witchcraft when people say what style of witchcraft. Because, of course, I couldn't call myself a fucking Gardnerian or an Alexandrian Wicca because I've never done Wicca. I can't call myself a traditional witch because it's too limiting. I can only call myself what the majority of my practice revolves around, which is professional, which is because I charge something. I'm like a fucking whore. You pay me, I'll do it, right? Magically speaking. The archetypes are these words. They fucking mean nothing. You're either a witch or you're not. And if you are a witch, how strong are you? How far does your willpower get you? Do you want it that much that you will drag yourself across the fucking floor to get to the other side of the room to put your jacket on and get out? You know? Will you do that? The vast majority of them don't. The vast majority, this is a fucking hobby. For the classical witch, right? For the old types, this isn't a hobby. It's not even a calling. This is them. It is them. They have to progress. They have to push. They are magic. It's funny. Open a book of magical creatures and that, even if it's from the fucking Harry Potter universe or some shit like that mythology. There's often a page on witches. I opened one the other day and it was all about magical creatures, and one of them said witch as a magical creature is because they are a magical creature, because they bleed magic, because they're a part of magic. The classical witch, the old-fashioned approach was that. It was a case that you are fucking gonna go and do it, right? And I'm not seeing this. What I'm seeing is I don't really like this Wicca. I don't really feel much. I've never liked pentagrams, and I don't much like this god and goddess thing, you know, and colored candles. Who needs colored candles? But I did read this fascinating book, and it did say about all of this, special Scottish yarns I need to use, because that's what they used to use. And they used to use this specific color for this specific thing. And then all of a sudden I've fallen into correspondences, and I think that I'm doing something special and unique. And I think I understand how it works because I charge a little bit of money on a shit Etsy store for some of this crap. But actually, I don't fucking understand any of it. And I'm just getting used by spirits out there. So there we go. We've got about 2 minutes before we switch over to the Patreon, and then I don't have to censor myself anymore.
We'll enjoy that. What I kind of want to pick out of there, and we'll push it a bit further the other side, is that kind of classical archetype. So this classical witch, I'm all for this kind of primordial witch that has been born that way. And I know lots of people will jump all over that, but is the fact that actually this is a born with knowledge, not I'm a little bit attracted to all things witchy. That is, I was born to do this. I know how to do it. What I want is some guidance to get better.
Yeah.
Those to me are the ideal candidates for something, for what we do. But at the end of the day, what gets me with the traditional lot is yes, go and look at these, but why are you actually using them? Do you understand what they actually are, what they actually do?